Welcome back. This is the second half of your newspaper review on K24 this morning. Glad you could join us. Of course, as always, we love your feedback on the big stories of the day. You can get me on the WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen. You can also get me at I am Jeff Morte on Twitter or at K24TV as well. We have some WhatsApp messages. Let's look at those really quickly before getting back to the discussion. Cargo yesterday says there was no money that was stolen. My question is, why did he say so like that, and yet we have not yet finished periods given by the president for the investigations? It's a week now. It's not sufficient now to put it likewise. It seems like it's a matter of panicking for Kagwe. Okay. Hashtag COVID-19 funds probe. Kenyans are tired of our fraudulent leaders. Let us have a new clique of fresh and young leaders. Even Jack Ma Foundation is shocked. Okay, one more message. The government should look to root corruption, to root of the corruption base on COVID-19 funds, lost and uproot all corruptors. Okay. So that's where we are on that one. Keep them coming in, of course. And don't forget, you stand a chance to walk away with 250 bob worth of airtime. All you need to do is take a screenshot of your downloaded copy of your People Daily on your phone. Send that to me on the WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen. Send me your name and location, and you get yourself 250 bob worth of airtime, all courtesy of the People Daily and Safaricom. And to download your copy, the number that you need is *550 *4#. Let's bring it back to studio and look at the big story. Other than KEMSA right now is the ruling party. And the big question is, how does this story end? I've asked this severally because at a point you would think that probably they would try and meet in a boardroom somewhere, have some sort of PG meeting and get to really what is the matter here. But it's a wound that just keeps on festering. You look at what's happening on the Standard right now. Thorn in DP's flesh. They're calling the Jubilee vice chair a tormentor-in-chief of the deputy president. And you've seen what has happened right here. A quote from David Murathe. We care who will come after this president, so we have to sit and scheme. We don't know who will be president, but you're working very hard on who will not be. We've heard severally who is spoken about right there. And then we have a tweet from the deputy president who spoke about the corruption consultants, brokers and conmen, some bankrupt in 2013 are now billionaires after looting. The end is nigh, nowhere to hide. This is a deputy party leader and a vice chair of the same party, which is the ruling party right now. Hezbollah, when you look at this political landscape and machinations, what is going on here?
Well, you know, when the Jubilee party came to power, first of all as a coalition and then in their second term as a political party, you know, we had this dynamic duo of President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy. And I think there was a lot of optimism in a very vibrant young leadership, a presidency that brought the presidency closer to the people. But that has since changed. And that is politics. I mean, we live in a country where, you know, political parties have come and gone. I mean, the most enduring political parties are very few. You have KANU and ODM, and probably you want to hope that Jubilee will survive.
Do you think it does with what you're seeing?
Well, we know with all these politics and all that, you can only look at what the interest of the common mwananchi is. Does the interest of the common mwananchi lie in political parties? And I think to a large extent in Kenya, these days what we are looking at is service delivery. You know, to what extent are we going to get service? And you'd expect that, you know, the political party that Jubilee is doesn't undermine the delivery of the big four by the president and his deputy. And you see, that is something that they need to work out on how they are going to deliver. But the unfortunate bit is that when we live in a country where individuals who wield a lot of influence express themselves to the effect that, you know, the succession politics of this country depends on what individuals do, then it is very unfortunate. You know, I mean, the Jubilee Vice Chair, Murathe, talked about expressing his own opinion. And I would want to believe that that is just his opinion. It is not institutionalized anywhere. It is not the president's opinion. But as a Kenyan, we are all, you know, at liberty to express our opinions. Because we cannot leave the succession of the succession politics in this country, or any element of politics, to be based on what individuals can scheme and do. We need institutions that will ensure that irrespective of what individuals do, then the citizenry can actually exercise their right to give that power to govern to the right people. Now, from where I sit, I think I think the deputy president, I have a lot of respect for what the deputy president has done for this country. The history of these two and the president, from my understanding of the political dispensation, is fairly interesting. Because before President Uhuru Kenyatta came to parliament, there was this issue that he was going to be nominated, he was going to be given a parliamentary constituency to vie. And the person who came out and said that if Uhuru needs to be in parliament and become a cabinet minister, then he can come to Gatanga. We are ready to ensure that he gets, a position in the parliamentary politics in this country, was Honorable David Murathe. Back then, he was the MP for Gatanga. And I remember he received a lot of flack, particularly from one Honorable Mahina Kamanda, who was then strongly in DP, and they believed that Kibaki was gonna, take the country forward. And that was around 1999, 2000. So there is a history between the president and Murathe, and that's why there is that perception that when he speaks something that is aligned to what the president is thinking. But then I think after that, when President Uhuru became a cabinet minister and an MP, nominated MP, of course, the war that the deputy president fought for the president is out there. I mean, he stood with the president when the Rainbow Coalition left KANU. They lost an election. Well, of course, so many things happened, and eventually in 2013, again, he stood with the president. So the Jubilee business can be kept within Jubilee. What Kenyans are thinking of today is we don't care what happened between the president and his deputy. We don't care so much about what Murathe is saying because he has expressed himself as an individual. But we need to take these things seriously because then they affect the service delivery to this country. And most importantly, I think we need to take what Honorable Murathe is saying seriously, that if people are scheming, where is the interest of the common citizen? Are they scheming for self-preservation? And if they are doing that, where do we sit? To what extent do we need to stop that scheming if it is not for the good of the public? But then if they are scheming on things that will help the public, then it doesn't have to be individual. It has to be within structures. If those structures are going to be instituted via the BBI process, then we need to believe in the process and not the individuals.
Millie, we have a situation where we have this vice chair of this particular party, David Murathe, who some people are talking about, wielding immense influence. Do you think it's a perception issue? Is this influence, manufactured by media? Or do you believe the influence he wields can actually have him go toe-to-toe with the deputy president of the republic? Because that's what it seems like right now. They're on equal footing at this particular point. And this is a person who hasn't been elected into any office, yet, is having a back and forth with the deputy president of Kenya. There's an issue with the audio on Millie. Okay, there seems to be a problem with the audio right there, Millie, as they try to sort that out. I'll get back to you on that. Let me bring it to studio. Oliver, I'll ask you this particular one, because when you look at the front page and you have the deputy president of the country and the vice chair of the party going at it with each other as if they're on equal footing, where has Murathe gotten all this influence from to do this, to take on the number 2 in the country, essentially, as if they're equals?
Jeff, that question should be this way. Is Jubilee still a political party?
It has all the makings. They still have their PG meetings. They still have the leadership structure in place. But the spirit seems lacking. What's your assessment?
My take about Jubilee is simple. One, Jubilee is both constructively and functionally, it is dead. Let us call a spade a spade. And whereas the most painful thing about the death of Jubilee is the issue that how it came together. It came together on a platform of bringing the nation together, building a national party, all the sweet things that we were told. But now here we are, where now there is a lot of dog honor kind of politics going on. But what we must go back to is the issue that Uhuru Kenyatta has a lot of blame to take for the death of Jubilee. Because as the party leader, he has so much to do to make sure that the destiny of the party and the soul of the party is in one direction. Look at Jubilee. Jubilee is akin to a man who has a good heart, but he has been ripped all over the body. So what remains is just a good heart. It is just that. We cannot even tell whether the heart is good or not, because we can't get into it. And the other thing I'll say, the less talked about Murathe, the better, because here is a person who nobody elected him. He's in an interim basis in the political party. He has said he will not vie if given a chance. The altercation they have with the deputy president, one, we kill why we have political parties in this country. We do not, and Jeff, when you read our constitution, the spirit of having political parties in Kenya is not to win elections. The spirit of having political parties in Kenya is to entrench democracy and to entrench people-based leadership, where the people have a say. It is to make sure that people of different strains, if Esbon, my friend here, believes in the ideology of, let's say, taxation in a certain manner, and I believe in the ideology of devolution, and we do not share a core thing, we can form different political parties. That is what the Constitution, the spirit of our Constitution is. But here we are. Look at all the problems that have bedeviled Jubilee. It is a simple question of leadership. The leadership in Jubilee has failed, and it is in extent of failure of leadership in Jubilee that the country currently is in a position where you don't know which is the ruling party, which is the minority party, where are we as a nation in terms of democracy, because the leadership of the ruling party has fallen to the same mess we have always been, where people have bigger interest than both national and political party interest. ODM, with all the problem it has sustained to be a political party in the last 4 elections because the leadership there is steadfast in matters political parties. But what happens in Jubilee? Instead of listening to Uhuru Kenyatta first, you will hear Uhuru Kenyatta last.
Is something you said about
the vacuum in between allows brokers, conmen, all manner of things, and scalawags and tailwaggers around there to move away with anything and everything. And this is an affront. This is an affront to our Article 1 of the Constitution. We, the people, we did not choose Murathe. Who is Murathe to listen to him?
But we did choose the deputy president.
Yes,
and the thing
that is why
we are finding
we must hold the deputy president and the president accountable for the mess we are in. Because
we're having
they are the people
president,
we woke up when there was a public holiday.
We're having a situation where the deputy president is the same one calling out Murathe every single time in interviews and, subliminally in tweets. And it makes us wonder then if he has to address Murathe every single time or respond when Murathe says something, probably they are equals. And that's why he has to also assert his authority there.
Let us put it clear. If today you have friends, and you are married, and your friends, you are drinking buddies, Jeff, come asking your wife or talking down to your wife, what is the conclusion of reasonable men? The conclusion is whatever your drinking buddies say is what you tell them when you are drunk. That is the true position. And the thing is this, we should not sugarcoat some of these things. We should ask Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto to go in a room, close themselves in and sort their problem. So that, because one of the things, and it is unfortunate, that will go down as the legacy of Uhuru Kenyatta, is he will be blamed for killing the office of the deputy president, which is a constitutional office. And I have always had a personal question. The people who are killing the office of the deputy president are singing very loudly about increasing 5 offices. If you cannot help one office, which is the office of the deputy president, to function, how will you support that of the prime minister and the 2 deputies?
Let me bring in Millie on this one in very quickly on this because there was some audio issue with her. Millie, it's a key question right now because as all of this happens and we witness, what seems to be an imminent implosion of the ruling party, the party leader is conspicuously silent on this. We'd have expected by now, because these are his chief lieutenants within the party, his deputy party leader and his vice chair would be brought Jubilee headquarters. We find out what the issue is, and he irons out those issues so the party can move forward. But he seems very hands-off. Do you think that's by design? He wants this to play out as it is?
I think that the message, they say sometimes silence is very loud. And I think that his silence does not matter, is actually speaking. The deputy president has been struck to remain very relevant, and I think he's been doing an excellent job of it. When he's locked out of the powerhouse, he has been keeping busy, making sure he remains busy one way or another. Even now that the president has stepped for the fight against corruption, he said in one of the papers, I can't remember which one, that he's going to support Obadi. When we see that a political party has come out strongly to say what Kenyans have been calling out for, that don't support people who are corrupt. Let them take responsibility. And he's saying that he's going to support Ubado. It's the case. And he's still trying to keep very relevant with the news. And I think the president is speaking very loudly in his silence. The people around him who are supposed to give us an idea of what his thinking is are giving us an idea. And I'm sure that very soon, even the Secretary General of the party may speak. And we know for a fact that there has been lamentation from the Tanga that they have been excluded very systematically and very strategically from key positions in the party. Therefore, what forums they have to be able to answer? It's continuing to dwindle. I think that's why they're being told that neither ship up or ship out.
And let me bring it back to studio. Hesbon, you wanted to give a quick rejoinder on this particular scenario as it stands.
Yes, but Jeff, you know, one thing that happens in an election is we elect a president, but once he becomes a president, he has to be presidential in his behavior and demeanor. And therefore, you don't expect the president to start responding to very petty things within the political party while addressing the interest of the citizenry. But when we situate this thing broadly, you realize that the president has enough times pronounced himself about early campaigns. Since he won the second term, I think he was, you know, focused on the big four, which translate to the legacy three: the war on corruption, the big four, and of course, uniting Kenyans. But then there have been mutiny. There have been people who have been having different agenda. And I think the president has sounded warning enough times without mentioning names, which is fairly presidential. And I think we cannot, you know, exonerate the political players from the dirty water that they find themselves in, because you can easily tell that there are people who, from the word go, were looking at 2022. You know, from as early as 2018 in January, they had started the journey to 2022. And a number of critics have said that that is the journey that the deputy president took. Whether it is true or not, I think it's for us now to situate that broadly and look at what brought us to this space where the deputy president or the office of the deputy president seems to be shunned from anything the presidency.
I just want to take a short pause right there. I want you to continue that, but there are some winners who need to announce right here on the show. We have 3 winners at this particular point, of course, courtesy of the People Daily and Safaricom. Let's have them up on screen very quickly. There we go. George Ratemo Ongera from Meru. You get yourself 250 shillings worth of airtime. Who else do we have right there? Elijah Bryan from Kwale County, also having downloaded his copy of the PD. And our third winner at this particular point in time, Dennis Bet from Capsabet, also having downloaded their copy of the PD right there. They've gotten themselves each 250 bob worth of airtime, all courtesy of the People Daily and Safaricom. It could be you as well. Just dial the number *550*4#, download your copy of the PD, take that screenshot and send it to the WhatsApp number at the bottom of the screen. Hesbon, you've said that the reason where we are is also because the Deputy President seemed very keen on 2022. How did he do that? Because it's been said time and time again, he wasn't working, he was campaigning. How was that taking place?
Well, I mean, whether he was working or not is not an issue, because, I mean, he was definitely working because the campaigns were over the weekend. And I think even to date, what we see are so many conversations around people will not stop me, meeting delegations. And you ask yourself, if that is the conversation, that is the preoccupation from Monday to Friday, then is it that someone is killing the office of the DP, or the office of the DP has decided that there is a totally different agenda, which may not be the Jubilee agenda? And as I said, I don't speak for Jubilee. I don't know what happens in Jubilee, but at least I know what is happening in this country. And when Kipchumba says that the president and his deputy need to have a conversation in a locked room, that conversation has very little for Kenyans if it's about Jubilee, but it has a lot for Kenyans if it's about them sitting down and having a conversation on what did they decide that they were going to do for Kenyans, and can they shut the 2022 business? And for all intent and purposes, the president has never been about the 2022 business. Actually, he said that whoever he will support will shock Kenyans. I want to hope that it will shock Kenyans in the sense that the person who will help him deliver the agenda that he has instituted will be the person who will be Kenyans' obvious choices. But in the grand scale of things, we also need to remember that come 2022, Kenyans are going to exercise their right to vote as individuals. Kenyans are not going to base who they are going to vote for on what Murathe says. Even if Murathe wants to give Raila 5 terms as a transitional process, that is Murathe. He has 1 vote. What Raila does, to convince Kenyans is totally divorced from what Murathe is saying. Critical, and lastly, is this conversation cannot be about Jubilee. If this conversation reverts back to helping Kenyans, realize what Jubilee promised, and the deputy president and the president works to ensuring that, the deputy president will be in a far much stronger place than having delegations every day telling us he will not be stopped. No one wants to stop him from what we know, because the election is not today. The election is in 2022.
Right.
But if he continues with these conversations of campaigning, I think he will have very little to show Kenyans to give him that vote.
Millie, we're now on the tail end of this conversation. It's parting shots as we wind up this particular discussion. From where you see this at this particular point in time, do you think there's a possibility, even the slightest, where there's a PG meeting or a meeting held within this particular leadership that brings these ranks together and they try and, rescue this party before 2022?
I highly doubt. Not in the near future, maybe a little later on. And I say so because consistently, I think that even when the has made his expectations are, the deputy president just made it pretty clear what his strategy way forward is. Right from the time the Tanga name, he was asked not to do his, he will do it, he must serve the people. Right now, everybody is trying to talk about issues of corruption. He is there giving, making a move at it, trying to make reference to the fact that it is now linked to other and pointing fingers. I mean, there doesn't seem to be a point of convergence where even if you wanted to mediate or bring the two together, to be able to start from, there's definitely a strategy that the deputy president has applied, and it doesn't work with him being seen to be subservient to the president for now. So I doubt that that will be the case. But just as we end, I think that I want to say I noted something in the papers today that I think is very key. The equity scholars who are flying high and going to very good schools on scholarship. And I think that's something that is good news now that we are getting a very confused education sector in the face of COVID.
Okay, thank you so much for that, even as we wrap it up on that particular side. Let me bring it to studio very quickly. 30 seconds each. Let's keep it under a minute on this one. What are your parting shots? Let me start with Oliver, then very quickly, Hesbon.
I think my parting shots towards whether we really need to continue sustain the fight against corruption. My answer will be yes, we need to, and we need to thoroughly do so. And how we are going to win the war on corruption is not to do it like we are playing football. We must have predictable ways of doing it and the right consistency. Okay. So my plea on this today is to just ask the good CS, just step aside, allow for investigation, we will win back the confidence, and the Uhuru administration will leave to the billing being one of the administrations that have fought corruption consistently. Okay.
Hesbon, your parting shot very quickly.
Well, I think the biggest issue today is corruption. And when we look at the KEMSA corruption and, of course, the implication it has on the agencies that are funding our health system, the USAID, the Global Fund, and all that. And, of course, the impact that it creates in the war against corruption, given that this is money that is supposed to help fight a pandemic, is key in the public domain. And what I expect is that the media will keep us a lot more informed and will keep us thinking about what the different agencies are doing about, the KEMSA corruption and every other corruption cases, so that it becomes a center of focus in the public domain.
Okay, thank you so much. That's where we draw the curtains on this particular discussion this morning, but it continues online as well. You can get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV, of course, for your thoughts and comments on what we're discussing right here. Thank you so much for making time this morning. Oliver Karori, Hesbon Owela, thank you so much for making time. Joining the conversation via Skype was Millie Luanga. We take a short break right now. After the break, break. We get interactive right here on K24 TV. Don't go too far.